no, we're good. All right, so welcome to the 4-H Alberta Steer Carcass Competition webinar. Today we will be going through some of the competition criteria as well as how to register. Joining us today is Rod Turner, Chair of the 4-H Alberta Steer Carcass Committee, and the other members of that committee are Terry Elliott and Carrie Kopp from the South region, as well as Lyndon Mansell from the Northeast region. So with that, take it away, Rod.
Thanks, Lexi, and welcome to everyone who's listening to the webinar, and I hope you find some information that is valuable for the competition this year. To start with, just going to go through some of the basics of the competition. Really, the goal of the competition is to feed a steer to produce a carcass that meets the needs of a quality restaurant. So we're looking at something like a High's restaurant or the top end restaurants that are looking for a specific cut of beef to put on their plates. And that's sort of what the criteria was developed around to meet the criteria for this competition. Some other competition requirements, all the members have to be good members in good standing, and also we have to follow the policy 6.05 rules and regulations put together by Alberta 4-H. And all of the steers must be weighed in at either club or district levels, and make sure that the visual ID tag is there. So that could be a 4-H tag, it could be a specific number that your district or clubs use, but also the CCIA tag. So that's the most important one. All the animals have to have that tag in them, and that's how we also identify the animals that are in the competition. The last criteria is the member must market the animal. So the animal could be marketed through to a neighbor, a friend. It could go into your own deep freezer. The other option is working with your abattoir that these animals go to, and could be sold to them. So those are some of the options for the members that are going to be competing in the competition. So the registration process, and Lexi will go through some of this at the end of the presentation, but there's a couple of steps in doing that. So after you're weighed in and registered with your 4-H club or district, however you do your weigh-ins, you have to go onto the 4-H Alberta website and register online through their registration system, and also pay the $75 fee for entry into the competition. So it's a two-step thing, and everyone has to remember to do that so that we don't miss out on one end or the other. The other thing that has to happen is we need the pictures of the steer, the front, the left, and the right sides, either sent by email, and Lexi's email address is there. That's probably the easiest way to send those pictures, and we'd like to have them there as soon as possible. Registration ends December 1st, but we'd certainly like them in as soon as possible so that we can make sure that we have all the information that's required for these animals. The next thing that we'd really like to make sure that the members are doing right away at weigh-in day or very soon after is collecting tail hair samples and send that into Neogen. And they will be doing a DNA test of the animals, and we'll be using that in a webinar that comes up in January or early February, just to give you an idea on what the DNA actually is showing of your animal and how to read those results as well. So the registration process also has this year all of the dates and locations solidified right now. So when you're doing your registration, pick the facility that you would like to have your animal delivered to when that time comes. So as you can see, there are delivery dates, harvest dates, and grading dates, and all of those are within a day or two of each one of them. So they're delivered the one day on, say, June 2nd for H&M Meats in Grand Prairie, and they will be harvested on June 3rd, and then the grading would happen the next day, June 4th. So those are going to be what the dates are for each of the different facilities. We also have, other than H&M Meats, we have Deerview Meats in Irving down by Medicine Hat. We have the Meat Chop in Penhold, Alberta, just outside of Red Deer. We have Love's Custom Meats in Vegreville, Alberta. Forestburg Meat Processing in Forestburg, and Sangudo Meats in Sangudo. So if you look at those days, we're trying to keep these, the processing within a very time very short timeline, and so please pick the date that you would like, and make sure that that's in your registration when you put that forward. So some of the benefits of the provincial program, one of the things that we've been discussing already is the DNA testing, and we feel that this is a new, I guess, new test that I think is interesting for all the members to kind of compare how the animals actually grade versus what is predicted by the DNA testing. So, and as I'd mentioned before, we're going to be doing some webinars, so explaining the DNA results in January. We're planning another one in March, marketing or financial management of your beef project, most specifically towards the carcass competition. And then in May, ahead of actually harvesting these animals, we want to give you some more information on how the grading system works, and also how to interpret that information that you're going to be getting back after we do the recording of these animals when they're graded. So the other thing that we do have is a final awards banquet and tour, and final preparations or arrangements are being made for this year's awards banquet, which will happen after the harvest is finalized. So somewhere at the end of June, possibly into July, depending on our final information comes out. Another thing is you can reconnect with or actually meet new friends. Our tour and final banquet at the Lacombe Research Station this past year sure solidified that. A lot of kids were reconnecting with some that met at camps, and others were just meeting some people for the first time. And the last thing, as far as the benefits are concerned, is diary points. And diary points are certainly something that everyone's looking for when they're applying for selections and that sort of thing. So some changes on the point distribution this year. Marbling is one of the things that has changed a little bit. With respect to this, we're actually going to be grading both sides of the carcass. So if one side of the carcass, for instance, is a AA and the other side is a AAA1, the best score is recorded. So in this instance, we would be recording a score of AAA1 for that carcass. So no changes in the point range here. They range from a low of 10 for single A up to 35 for a prime. Another new portion, and this is due to the harmonization between the US and Canadian beef grading systems, and we're going to a retail cut yield, which is the new harmonization method of doing that. Previously, we would have a yield of anywhere from approximately 52% on the low up towards to 63 from the Y1 to Y3. We now have 5 yield grades from a 1 to a 5. And so it's going from 45% or less up to 53.3 is the high end of these. The maximum points do not change for the high yield one at 25 down to a yield of or score of 5 on the yield 5. So really not a lot of change there other than the percentages have changed. And the other thing is that we're going to be grading both sides of the carcass, and again, the best score will be taken. So if there is a differential, then the best score will be recorded for that carcass. Ribeye measurement it will be only from the left side between the 12th and 13th rib, and maximum score for 20 points will be given for the ribeye that is 80 centimeters to 89.9 centimeters. And that is a little bit of a change from last year. Last year, the maximum was 90 to 99, but the restaurants were telling us that that is a little bit too big for what they want in their restaurants. So in talking with them, we made that a little bit of a change, moving it down to the 80 to 90 square centimeters. Warm carcass weights, nothing has changed. Oh, sorry, the weight range again to correspond with what the restaurants were saying. We also decreased that by 25 points, so the maximum points are given between 726 and 750 pounds. In comparison, last year it was 751 to 775. So not a lot of change there. The points are all the same. It's just where the maximum points fall. Point distribution for fat thickness, no changes there. Maximum points are given between 5 millimeters and 6 millimeters at 10 points. And then it scales down depending on if you have more fat or less fat on that carcass. So the last three criteria, muscling score, fat color, and ribeye color, are three things that we've increased the points from 4 to 5 just to round out the numbers. However, everything else on that on the charts are all the same. So the next portion, that there's 30 extra points for the animals, and these are sort of live criteria points, I guess. One of them is tie broke, and we get a lot of questions as to why we want these animals tie broken. And the first one is safety. We have to, as a committee, and the people that are helping us evaluate for them are actually taking and having to read these tags by hand, so they have to hold the ears of these animals and read the numbers. So these things have to be done safely, and if these animals are tie broke and easy to handle, not only us but the members that are actually there are safe, and that's the most important thing. The other thing is meat quality. If these animals are quiet and they are quiet, there's less chance of them actually having dark cutters or any of those type of issues. So meat quality and safety are the two reasons for that. So when we're looking at this, steer can be tied, led, and touched all over on the CCIA tag, but read by hand, we're allowing 10 points. Steer is quiet when tied and allowed the CCIA tag to be read by hand, but maybe a little skittish around other people, say 5 points. And if that steer is really wild and cannot read the CCIA tag, zero points. And the person who is actually evaluating these animals at that time may actually disqualify that animal just because they feel it's too wild for safety reasons. Tag free is another 10 points. We want these animals to be clean and tidy. Because it's provincial competition, we feel that members should be doing a little bit more with these animals than just bringing them out of a pen and taking them to the abattoir. So if the animal's clean and tidy, 10 points. If the animal's clean, but you know, there's some tag that's not easily seen, maybe under the brisket or on the belly, something like that, would be allowed 5 points. But if the steer has noticeable tag on its body all over the place and it's very visible, they won't be allowed any points for that. So the one thing that we want to make sure that everyone realizes that fresh manure from transport is not considered tag. Tag is matted hair and manure that's on the legs or on the belly and that sort of thing. So again, this is a food safety issue that we want to ensure that these animals are clean and that there's no potential transfer for E. coli or anything like that to the meat. And the last 10 extra points is for the final presentation and record book. Some of the things that we're looking at is pictures throughout the year, the beginning of the year when it's just a calf, right through to the final stages, outlining the feed ration. There's some animals that will be fed prepared ration, and others will mix their own at home. So it's very interesting for, you know, the committee members and other members that are participating to find out, you know, what these animals are being fed. And next thing is the DNA results and interpretation for that specific animal, and just learnings throughout the year. I think that we've been very happy with the reviews that we've been getting back from members at the last one that they're learning something, they're meeting friends, they're having fun, and they're planning on transferring a lot of that information that they're learning back to members in their clubs and districts and regions. So that is a very important thing that we're finding out. And the record book, just to make sure that that is completed, basically we'll be contacting the leaders of the various clubs and members and asking them if that member has completed a record book. And if so, then there'd be 2 points there as well. So the point distribution, the maximum score is 150 points. And the most important thing to realize is that the animal that can get the most points out of each of those different criteria is the winner. And sometimes we do have ties, and in some of the occasions it comes down to the last 3 criteria. The animal tie broke, free of tag, and the final presentation, which actually breaks those tags. So those are easy 30 points that the members can get, and by making sure that you have 10 points, it really helps out in case there is a tag. So with that, the most important thing that members have to realize is that please read the criteria document. I'm only giving a summarization of what the information is. However, there are little things in the criteria that you should be aware of, and make sure that you actually take and read those to make sure that there are no surprises going through the competition. So with that, I hope that you learned something, and I'm going to turn it back to Lexi to go over how to register your animals.
Well, thank you very much, Rod, for that overview of the carcass competition. So while I pull up my screen here, I think it's important to recognize that when registering for the steer carcass competition, that if your club leader does need to register the project in the member's profile or at club registration time and order the record book, and then they will also be the leader that we contact for completedness in the record book. Then it is up to the members to register through the online registration system, which we will get to in just a second here. So hopefully you're seeing my 4-H Alberta landing page, my screen, the 4-H Alberta landing page. And so this is what it looks like when you get onto the 4-H Alberta website. And when you just scroll down, you can click here on the calendar, and that is where you'll find all of the information or all of the events that are happening with 4-H Alberta. And to find some information on them, you can click here at the top and it will limit them. So if you just want to remove some of the options here, we'll leave deadlines on. It will limit what you see and reduce what you see. So what we're going to do is go to December, because that is where the steer carcass competition deadline is. And so just click on that day, and you'll see all the information for the steer carcass competition. So you can scroll through, see all the information. The guidelines are here. You can click on that. And this is the complete detailed document that Rod was talking about in his presentation, where you will see all of the information that will answer 99% of your questions about what are we looking for. So we'll just head back here to the criteria. The other information that was mentioned that was needed at registration. So for the DNA sampling, there's your profile order form, also in this deadline. Oops, there we go. And then there's also the hair card sample collection instruction, which will be very handy for members as well. So just know that that information is available on the registration deadline event in the calendar. Other option that you can do from our homepage is search. And I actually can't highlight the search function enough, because you can see what I've searched in the past, but steer carcass, hit search, and the first one that pops up will take you right to the guidelines. There we go. All right. So that's where you can find the information on the steer carcass competition. So we'll just go back to our home page. Again, we're at the landing page. To register, right now we do have the register now available just here on the left, or always available is the online registration, and I'm just going to click on that. And then you would just need to click on the camp program/event registration. And when you click on this link here, click here. I won't, because I just want you to see the login screen here. You'll need your username and password, which is automatically emailed to you when your club is approved for registration. So if you're missing that information and you are a previous 4-H member, you will find that information in your email. It would have been sent to you in September. If you're a new 4-H member, you just need to hang tight for the club to be approved, but just know that you will be able to access that document. So with that, that's the registration process. Once you've gone in here to this, once you've signed in successfully, you will see a tab for club registration on your top right. You'll need to fill in the 3 forms. So that will be your program agreement form, your the health form, and then the medication form. So while we don't use some of that information for this program, it is required for those to be filled in before you can register for any 4-H program. Once you've done that, you'll see a list of programs that you can register for. Click on Steer Carcass Competition, enter the required information, click Submit, pay your fee, and then your registration will show as pending. And it will stay showing as pending until it's approved. The approval of members into the program will happen after the registration. So if you show as pending and you've received an email saying that your registration is pending, you're good to go. We've received your information. And then, as Rod mentioned at the start of his presentation, the next step is to send the 3 photos to myself at the email that he had on his screen. So I think with that, Rod, is there anything that you would like to add for registration, or anything that's come to your mind about what might have been missed in the presentation?
No, I don't have anything else to add, but I just want to wish all those members that are registering in the program this year. We look forward to working with you, and look forward to seeing what you learn this year.